But we are underway here in this Yorion mirror. Both players playing 80 cards. Well, I guess, I don't know, going +1 is the thing now. On the backup table, they're both playing 61. Are these two both playing 81? I don't know. I wasn't.
Sure. Let's take a look. All right, let's do a quick check. Both players have registered 95, so that's 80 in the main, 15 on the side. However, as you mentioned, both players, of course, in the backup registered 76s. So that's that is the stage of Magic the Gathering as we know it. 60s are for nerds. Nobody plays that. Only 40s, or sorry, 40s for limited, I guess. Only 61s and 80s here as Omen of the Sea going to be the first play for Daniel Weiser. A great card for hitting land drops. So that's already an improvement of what we've seen so far.
That is true. That's good news for him. Let's see. Let me take a quick look here. Are we playing identical decks? We are not. There are differences.
Not
slight differences in counter magic. I believe Daniel has a rewind. Derrick does not.
Yeah. Not a ton of differences. Like the number of Narsets main versus side. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is as close to a complete mirror match as you'd expect. And unlike Modern, where you see the Yorion Azorius control and all the mess we talked about with Roger earlier, these decks actually true Azorius. Only blue-white. No leyline binding considerations with weirdo triumphs or anything like that. As here is a big attempt, Wandering Emperor, likely on instead. Jwari Disruption going to take care of that one. That one worth a land sometimes. We saw multiple copies of Dovin's Veto in Derrick's hand. Notably, looking to cash out that Jwari Disruption sooner rather than later speaks to having the next land drop dialed up at the very least as we go back to Daniel's turn.
And also just puts the lock on, this next turn, whatever Daniel might attempt to do. And it's going to be a Jwari Disruption as a land. Jwari, is that Jwari Ruins? Is I'm not sure the name. And here's a Deluge.
Jwari Ruins, you nailed it. Memory Deluge and Instep. That one's not going to eat a counter. Only just a Glacial Fortress and pass from Derrick. So hitting land drops. Deluge, scary. I would argue scarier on the back end than the front end, although still a draw 2 on the front end. Both players playing 4 copies. And one notably gets around Narsets, a card that's going to be a fixture, especially the sideboard games in this matchup.
Absolutely, yeah. Narset Partner of Veils is a real nuisance in, every format it's in, basically, but not in high copies in the main decks, so nothing they have to worry about too much here.
Daniel going after the front half of Derrick's Memory Deluge, so that one's going to eat a Make Disappear. And back over to Derrick we go. We do know I think Derrick has one more land dialed up, at least, in the form of a second copy of Field of Ruin. I think I saw in the hand. Actually has a irrigated farmland as well. So able to deploy a tap land there, pass the turn back, a pile of Dovin's Vetoes. Going to be able to get busy later in the game. So even though there's not a lot happening, and Derrick did just get his Memory Deluge counter, just getting a look at Derrick's hand, those Vetoes got to be worth a ton. I imagine he's set up pretty well to move into the late game for this game 1.
Yeah, these games are going to be... These are really going to be real battles. This is going to be hard to, Shark Typhoon being an uncounterable creature is a method to get onto the board, but there's enough removal that it's hard for those sharks to just put the game away before they get killed. And then there's just so many counters left for the rest of the stuff. There's no Teferi Time Revelers here to protect everything else.
Do have the 5-mana Teferis. Although it is worth noting, Derrick Davis up a Dovin's Veto if you're just talking about cards that matter. His 4 copies is his main deck. Dan Weiser only has 3. That could matter. We're seeing a lot of our decks. I'm going to go ahead and get Jwari Disruption on the flashback of Memory Deluge. So that one's going to get tagged. These Jwari Disruptions look very good for Derrick Davis. And that does mean no flashback of his own Memory Deluge yet. It's Castle Vantress added for Daniel. A lot of mana being tapped here. It's Teferi.
Yeah, that's a big one. Vantress also big in the long game. And you're right. I think to point out that you're going to see a lot of your deck. This game's going to go long enough that these players are going to see 1-ofs, 2-ofs, it's not going to be uncommon to find them. So especially with Memory Deluge flashback, even cards, there's not that much shuffling. So
as both players are shuffling, what a time.
Yeah, I know. So putting
Field of Ruin.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
You missed the Castle Vantress. That one get picked off of the Field of Ruin. But yeah, you're right. Eventually, especially with these big Memory Deluges, you're going to start to just kind of know where your cards are at as far as like positioning your deck. as the game goes on is another irrigated farmland, notably not interested in cycling those, playing those tapped. Definitely speaks to the mana advantage mattering in this matchup. Is here is an in-step Wandering Emperor.
All right, can this land? It can. I mean, well, okay, that was brief.
Oh yeah, check it out. So yeah, there's a opportunity here to go ahead and get lost before Daniel has mana. But of course, it's not a trigger that lets her activate. That's just something that's inherently true about the Planeswalker. So able to activate prior to that. So you see get lost. Destroy target creature, enchantment, or Planeswalker. Its controller creates 2 map tokens. And conveniently, Daniel Weiser has a target for these maps already dialed up.
Yeah, he sure does. And Derrick only has 2 cards. So probably looking to flashback. Actually, I take that back. There was 7 mana available, but now there's only 5 because Get Lost was played. So Flashback Deluge is not happening this turn. And we do find the map token there. We'll see if Daniel wants to crank that off right now. Ooh, it's going to be Teferi.
Well, we know he has another veto, and that's going to do a good job picking out these Teferis. Is there another follow-up for Daniel? He's done a great job just having threats ready to go. And, Derrick, to his credit, has done a good job keeping those mostly off the table. I think last card in hand for Derrick is a Wandering Emperor. Didn't get a great look, though. Didn't get a great look there either. We'll see if he wants to just pass the turn with Memory Deluge. No land drop played. 2 cards in hand. Back to Daniel Weiser we go. Remember, maps can only be activated as a sorcery. And yeah, it looks like we're going to start it off with that. Get Lost on top of the deck for Daniel Weiser. Is he interested in keeping that?
I'm going to guess no, because counter is better than removal. But I guess if a Wandering Emperor slips into play, like one did for Daniel already, it is nice to be able to pick it off. If he doesn't have another option, I mean, you can't be wild about this. On the other hand, he could keep it and then sacrifice Omen of the Sea later and change his, if he wants to change his mind.
Or Field to Run. I guess, if you're
that's true also.
Able to reset it, you can just kind of get rid of it that way.
Yeah, although if you
farmland to draw it now if you need it. Wow, this is actually a much tougher decision. Have access to get rid of it or leave it if you want. And that would maybe incentivize not activating the second map. So we're not going to do that. Just go ahead and go to combat, get your 3 damage in, and see if there's any follow-up. If Irrigated Farmland's the only land Daniel Weiser has to play, I mean, imagine you still play it. I mean, there's a consideration to not. Is Yorion going to go ahead and get special action? That is bought. And yeah, I think his Irrigated Farmland just didn't play it. Pass the turn over. Memory Deluge is going to get flashbacked, and that's going to eat an Absorb.
Okay. All right. Well, that's...
Dispute!
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, we have to dispute to fight 8 mana, and that's going to work. That's his last 2 cards. And I see another Deluge among the mix. Wow. What an important dispute to have here.
Yeah, that was really, really significant. How many? What's the count of those in the main deck here?
2. We have 2. So we actually do have a second copy. Those are ones we didn't really highlight quite yet. Came up huge here for Derrick Davis. And now, I mean, if Derrick found something like a Teferi, you could just maybe resolve right away. That would be huge. Didn't get a great look at what all the options were, but I mean, I did see plenty of counter magic if that's what he wants. I saw another Memory Deluge if that's the direction we want to go. Had options.
Oh, and now he's got options too on the choices and now on play. It's going to be something. I mean, there is a token on the board, so Planeswalkers are not super, and it's just going to be land pass. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Back to Daniel we go. We do know there's a Yorion in hand. Derrick has not chosen to buy his yet and doesn't really have anything to flicker yet.
And we also know that Get Lost did end up being drawn by Daniel.
True.
So
and that makes the Wandering Emperor in Derrick's hand maybe a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Although really awkward gets these vigilance tokens, especially as Daniel Weiser's grows. You're kind of in a little bit of trouble trying to make the Wandering Emperor happen. But
I mean, still,
I to work with.
Daniel's token and maps came from that exact interaction that Derrick has available. That is going to stay.
Yeah, Dovin's veto. I don't know where the game state would have to be that we're putting that in the graveyard, but you'd have to be really far behind, and Daniel Weiser is not. As another attack for 3 comes across, this chip damage could end up mattering. Here is a Memory Deluge on end step. See if Daniel Weiser is interested in trying to interact with that in any way.
Hard to counter this here because you're not going to close the game before it gets flashed back, probably. That's getting closer.
Unlikely, but I mean, Daniel Weiser's also just got a lot of resources to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just have enough counterspells dialed up, we know about a veto on top. So if you want to answer this and then, you have the veto covered, maybe that's okay. Yeah, a lot of consideration here. And we're going to go for it now. We're just going to cycle the farmland.
All right, so Field of Ruin Field of Ruin is going to break that up.
Okay, well, that was pretty face up. That's going to go after a hollowed fountain. Obviously, Daniel Weiser going to float mana with that some capacity as both players go a shuffling. So an interesting timing for this. Like you knew about that. All this is like kind of face up for Daniel Weiser, right? The cycle, and you know about the field can disrupt it. So is just getting that field activation on a land that doesn't matter part of the equation here? Because like your farmland is going to get a card no matter what, versus finding that specific card, and maybe you can still find a counterspell or whatever. Hard to tell, but this would maybe speak to Daniel having another play.
Well, and Derrick now finds himself with 2 untapped mana after the field, so he's still. I guess he had 4 before that. Okay, another
cycle, another farmland with the mana floating, and yeah, okay, we had 2 looks. Apparently, didn't find anything. And Memory Deluge is gonna go a digging. See, Omen of the Sea, Castle Ardenvale's actually got to be pretty good. Well, field can take care of it before it can go too crazy. So maybe not a huge priority, but a land to play nonetheless. That's where you're at. Omen of the Sea with the last 2 mana going to go ahead and get cast.
Yeah, that's nice. That way that worked out. And that is a double keep from Derrick.
Yeah, just re-highlighting, of course, the cycle from the irrigated farmland on the second one. That there was mana floating from the land that got fielded ruined. I want to make sure that's clear in case, obviously can't see chat, but there might be people in chat kind of curious about that. Cycle for 1, what the heck? Yeah, no, there's mana floating from the field of ruined land. And yeah, just no play past the turn from Derrick. And it's kind of funny as Derrick's life total dwindles. I actually feel like Derrick's getting more ahead.
Right. I mean, his hands, that mystical dispute just changed the whole pace, everything about this game. Derrick now flush with resources, Daniel with, still stuff going on, and still Dovin's Veto is making it hard to resolve anything for either player. But
true as well. Although Yorian's a card that we do know Dan Weiser has access to that would resolve underneath Dovin's Vetoes. Now, obviously, there's other counterspells and stuff like that. But if your concern is Veto specifically, Yorian's a card that works and actually gets some value with Owen to see in play. And Derrick, kind of on the back foot as far as life total goes, could be some trouble.
I almost feel like that's the more significant advantage here, whereas normally it would be the cards. Here, it's the actual threat.
Well, at some point, Derrick can pick up one of his 2 Supreme Verdicts and maybe clean everything up, but that could maybe be a problematic proposition if, you don't have it yet and you need your Memory Deluge to resolve or whatever, as here comes another front face of Memory Deluge. They'll add the second one to the graveyard. Make disappear among the mix. Daniel Weiser can pay, so that one not looking that good. March of Swirling Mists? No. March of Otherworldly Light pulled to the front. And we'll see if Derrick wants to take any action. Have to imagine you're interested in absorbing something like this. It's going to be a cycle Shark Typhoon for 1.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then make disappear to sack the token, and then that's 4.
Yeah.
Cute. Get to casualty the token away. That's actually going to work, and works around Veto as well. So a very nice play from Derrick Davis there. Hall of the Storm Giants, the follow-up. Not as much celebration for that one, but just as relevant on this board as that represents a lethal threat on its own.
Yeah, it sure does. All right, Derrick Davis. There's still Daniel Weiser didn't really think too hard about that make disappear. I guess he couldn't stop it anyway, but he's fine with it. Yeah, it's like he needs to hold up his counter magic for whatever Derrick's got, although he takes it down here in order to scry. And you're right. I guess the exploit mechanic of make disappear was so relevant there, more so than it normally would be. It wasn't just usually pay 4 is pay 4, but here was pay 2 twice, and that was very different.
Yeah, matters a ton when you're opposing counter magic and stuff. So came up huge. Being able to casualty away that token, we were like, what's going on with that? That's a really, really nice play to make that make disappear actually function. And you mentioned the sharks kind of get removed a lot. Well, not when they just get casualtied away. Here comes the Hall, fired up, and an attack. Now we have a tap creature, Wandering Emperor, that Derrick has had for many, many turns, able to at least be cast. Dovin's Veto, the response, and a Veto and a make disappear backed up. Those don't check Dovin's Veto, so now we have to go looking for a blocker. Omen of the Sea. Sees land, another Omen of the Sea.
That's not
Neither
it.
of those block Hall of the Storm Giants. And we don't find anything that Hall's able to get it done.
Yeah, so those Field of Ruins ran out, and then the Hall of Storm Giants connects to end the game. Although, I mean, the token was connected too, and Derrick just had counter magic left. So
I want to call back to the conversation we had when the irrigated farmland happened and the way that impacted the game. So we were like, okay, that's pretty face up. This Field of Ruins in play. He can just activate it and you're just cycling a card. How does that fit into your plan? And now at the end of the game with Derrick short of Field of the Ruin, you can go all the way back to that and say, well, Field of Ruin or random land actually comes up as really relevant in this game and actually went on to win Daniel Weiser the game. Easy thing to miss, but impressive play that kind of made Derrick use his Field of Ruin inopportunely and came up as a Field of Ruin short at the end of the game.
Sure. Okay, let's take a look at the deck list. There are slight differences between the two of them as we navigate our way through these 80 card lists. We did see the Mystical Disputes. There are two of them in Derrick Davis's deck list, as Drake mentioned earlier. There are some alternate counters in Daniel's deck that Derrick does not have. But then we look at the extra stuff in the sideboard. This is one Narset main. There's two more on the board. There's two
more Regal Caracals. Yeah. Celestia Azorius Cats, as I believe I've heard Zach Allen refer to this style of deck. Change the equation. Narset's reversals have to be insane in this matchup, and then Mystical Disputes, of course, as well. So a lot of counter magic. If that's
I would imagine reversal is okay here. I mean, you can.
Because it works against veto, right? It's just like one of the cards that actually works against veto.
Yeah, it does. But if they have mana available, it's not like it's I don't know. It doesn't feel super to me.
All right, it sucks, Joe.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's because it doesn't work on memory. The fact that reversal does not work on the card drawing is, I think, very significant as far as how the games play out. Because if you get your own copy of their Memory Deluge, you didn't spend any mana on it. So it resolves, but you don't get to look at any cards.
Sure, but if you take the flashback, that matters. Whatever. A card you can bring in if you want to get out enough removal spells. I think there's going to be like the temporary lockdowns, I think, are atrocious. And, maybe you reach for some of the get lost verdict stuff as well. So you have plenty of cards you want to get out. Maybe you want to bring it in, maybe you don't. But I think they certainly could look very, very strong in certain spots in the game. No interest in the Regal Caracals? Not Caracal in them?
I don't know. Do you bring in all four of them? I mean, that very easily could be the plan. I'm
not gonna lie to you. I like bringing in one. If I was in Derrick Davis's seat, I'd bring in one. I want something that can maybe in the game quick. I want to make Daniel think twice about cutting verdicts and stuff like that. And maybe he just has those at inopportune times, but I don't want to be flush with them. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the other side of things. Daniel Weiser.
And a much different sideboard.
Yeah. Creatures here, two different ones. Two Dream Trawlers. Two Chrome Host Seed Sharks. Between that and the Regal Caracals, is it maybe a wash? I don't know. I feel like I'd rather be on this side of things.
I mean, Dream Trawler getting Mystical Disputed, not great.
Yeah.
And also, Mystical Dispute, the only extra counter magic picked up for Daniel Weiser on the sideboard means that you are a lot more incentivized to put things in play. But I think Chrome Host Seed Shark, kind of the unsung hero here. I think that card is going to be very, very strong. And of course, it does get disputed as well, but for much less mana. You don't feel as bad. And the fourth copy of Veto picked up for Daniel Weiser as well in the sideboard. So quite a bit to change here as well. And I'd imagine a lot of similar cuts as well.
I think, kind of a fairly significant difference here is there are not Narsets in this deck, whereas Derrick has 3. Or am I missing them? I don't see them.
No, I don't see them either. I mean, there's obviously a lot to look at, but I don't see them either. I only see 4 Teferi, 4 Wandering Emperor, none on the sideboard. No Narsets, instead favoring the kind of creature plan. I mean, sure, if you have a bunch of creatures, those pressure Narsets, and maybe that's worth doing. Even if Dream Trawler isn't drawing cards right away, maybe that's fine. But, I mean, it would look on the surface that Daniel Weiser has less cards that are good in a control mirror to me than Derrick Davis does. But it does look like the cards Daniel Weiser has might be stronger. So, is having less but stronger better than having more on the aggregate? Not clear, but that's why we have 2 sideboard games to play. Well, up to 1 or up to 2, at least 1 to play, depending on how things shake. Daniel Weiser able to win game number 1, even though it looked like Derrick Davis was going to be able to get out of it. Hall of Storm Giants able to get the job done. The creature lands very much a big part of this. And, none of those are the counter spells. The counter spells don't work against it. And that's exactly what we saw the problem being. So bring in a bunch more counter spells. If what it's about is creature lands, and Daniel Weiser can capitalize on that again, then maybe it's all for naught. All these counter spells aren't actually going to amount to a win in the control mirror.
As the players are still shuffling, I think there might be a mulligan going on here for Derrick Davis. I wonder if in a 60-card deck, I feel like I would default to saying, to answer to your question, I would rather have fewer cards that were higher impact. In an 80-card Yorion deck, that may not be the case. You may want more cards because you have you're less likely to draw them. So you may a weaker sideboard card that you're more likely to draw may be actually stronger here. I don't
sure. Then you start talking about the intricacies, right? Like a card that is strong, but only early in the game, I would say is worse. But cards like Dream Trawler that are going to be good turn 14, when you're looking at an 80 card deck, maybe that card is still just as good on turn 14 as as if it would be in a 60 card deck, because you're going to see more cards like we talked about. You're more likely to find it, stuff like that. So maybe Chrome Host Seed Shark is a card to be less into. Dream Trawler card I'm more into if you're going to grade on that card. But you start talking about splitting hairs and things that
I know they seem good. I mean, they seem good whenever. The Regal Caracol may be a little worse on turn 12 or something, because the there's just harder to pressure through. It's harder to get work done. But with Derrick having more planeswalkers, Daniel's creatures are likely to be more relevant. Also harder for Daniel to board out something like Get Lost when Derrick has, more planeswalkers in after boarding.
That's true. But maybe, I think once you know what the exact cyber composition is, you can keep your Get Lost because they're good, and then cut some of the things like the verdicts that maybe Daniel Weiser can't be as comfortable cutting. This is where the open decklist nature of this is going to come in huge. Because you are going to sideboard differently than if you were just playing a blind control deck based on what the composition of the sideboard is, because you know exactly what you're going to be facing down as far as your control hate goes.
Okay, so let's see, how many cards are we keeping here? I think Derrick's down 1 at least.
All right, yeah, it looks like 1. It looks like we're reaching for another one, so potentially a mulligan to 5. I mean, not where Derrick Davis wants to be. No, it is just, okay, a mulligan to 6. Still not where Derrick Davis wants to be, especially on the play. And, Island go over to Daniel Weiser, just a Hall of Fountain tapped.
Yeah, and just Island Pass. Oh, okay. I was going to say, Island Pass can't signify much in the way of good lands, well, unless there's a Glacial Fortress, exactly, which there is.
And there sure was. Oh, and there's a shake of the head from Derrick Davis. No third land. And back to Daniel Weiser we go, who does have Deserted Beach as land number 3. No third land again. And Derrick Davis already seeing the tournament begin to slip away as Daniel Weiser does hit his 4th land drop. Need to find one here. Another brick, and it looks like we might actually on the mulligan be at move to discard time. For sure, Teferi's going to hit the bin, and what a brutal end. Derrick Davis shaking his head. What a brutal end to the tournament. Maybe he's not out of it, but some stuff would have to go really wrong for Daniel Weiser here, as he's not really incentivized to do anything, and even can just start activating Castle Vantress. Already has something to do that doesn't involve committing spells.
Yeah, so he can just either keep hitting land drops if Derrick keeps missing, or find action. Otherwise, he's also got Wandering Emperor in his hand if Derrick, for some reason, were to tap mana for
and I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And Derrick says, sure, all right, you can have that one. I'm not going to commit my counter spells to that. And Narset going to hit the bin. Over to Daniel Weiser we go.
2-land Narset sounds pretty good on 6 cards, but
we found Field to Run. Okay.
That's great.
3 lands facing down 6 isn't a good spot to be, but there's no Teferi in play yet.
Oh,
Wandering Emperor.
It's 2 land and Field of Ruin is so tough. You can't even cast Absorb. It's so brutal.
Look, you did this to yourself, putting all these utility lands in your 2-color deck. Oh, my mana's so good. No, it's not. Oh my god. All right, Dispute back. Here's a big fight over the Emperor. I mean, the fact Daniel Weiser is willing to commit Mystical Dispute, which is going to be great with Derrick so low on mana, means he has to have a crazy follow-up, and he sure does. It is Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, card coming off of that Teferi, and there is an island, 2 lands untapped, and I think this is kind of where we draw it. If it's not a land, we're kind of done. It was a land. Hall of the Storm Giants, not ideal. Narset could shut down the draw from Teferi. Is that something that could matter? Who knows? I mean, Weiser's given it a think.
Yeah, Daniel Weiser's trying to choose which of his 3 counter spells he wants to play here.
You're so pessimistic, Joe. Maybe it just works. Maybe he's on all air. He's not on all air.
Bang, there it goes. Yeah.
Mystical Dispute. And it is going to be, my apologies. It looks like Restless Anchorage is actually the land. And over to Weiser we go. We might have another play.
Boy, yeah. Derrick was hoping for, had dreams of like Narset gets countered, second Narset with Dispute backup, but we didn't even come close to any of that. And
you need a third land for that.
Yeah, I guess you do. And
Teferi is going to start going to work, and I mean, you got to keep playing if you're Derek Davis. Your tournament is on the line. A loss in this game means the end to your tournament, and it's not looking good, but you can't concede. Whatever the percentage is, you got to play for it.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, however, maybe you think, okay, I can play my way back into this. I can make good decisions, but this is no slouch you're facing off here against either. I mean, even if the players were equally competent playing this matchup, playing this mirror, Daniel Weiser has a commanding lead already.
Yeah, if you're ever in a spot where you need a mistake to happen, it's just so unlikely to even come close to happening. Here comes a big shark, looks like, looking to end the game quickly. Actually, multiple sharks in play. As the Shark Kindred deck is Azorius controls. Get lost. Going to go after Teferi after the big shark being made. But that does leave Chromos Seed Shark in play on a 5/5 shark token from Shark Typhoon. Daniel Weiser so far ahead, doesn't even need it. Just going to untap with this Chromos Seed Shark and the shark token. It's already 7 points of power.
He's behind in life, though. So.
That's very representative of what's going on.
Derek Davis has that going for him for the moment.
Yeah, until those creatures turn sideways, and then things, everything's terrible.
Right. Well, we're living in the moment here as Derek Davis.
We cracking maps? We making the sharks bigger? How are you feeling?
It'd be pretty cool. I mean, he goes, yeah, sure, why not?
Flavorful.
Probably.
We should have another. We should have another. Make a 5/5 incubation too.
Yeah, getting the incubation tokens on the board before the Chrome host gets swept up by Vert or something is obviously key. And I imagine that 5/5 incubate will stay there until
a verdict happens. If ever.
Yeah, right, exactly. it's Daniel's not going to use that to push pressure next turn. I wouldn't think. He's just going to have it sit there.
Oh, we are cracking a map. It looks like.
Oh, okay.
So I think because it looked like the die got bumped. Derek flipped it back, and then Daniel said, "No.
Yeah,
I have one." So yeah, we're choosing what to explore. Let's go on for a little adventure. I don't think either of these sharks can read a map or read anything in general, but sure, I guess. As a Restless Anchorage is picked up, so everything coming up Daniel Weiser, including an attack for 7. And back to Derek Davis we go, as every turn has looked worse than the previous, as lands are now included. Teferi, a pickup. Castable.
Great. Daniel Weiser can let it resolve.
And Narset is going to be the card of choice to be cast. And Daniel Weiser quickly says, sure. Quick down tick for Derek Davis. Can't grab lands, can grab spells. Get lost, quickly picked up. I mean, that can go after the Chrome host. Something.
Yeah. Yeah, I can.
And we are going to go ahead and transfer.
Yeah, Daniel's like, all right, you spent a bunch of mana. Let's go for the win right now. So here's get lost on what?
The problem is you're giving so many maps. Now there's like 5 maps. We're close to lethal. He gets to miss on a few of these maps if you don't kill a 5/5.
You can't even hit
it. You have to kill a 5/5.
Yeah, you do. And there's also the creature land in play as well. So let's see, 79. I think if all the maps hit spells, Daniel's still a point short of winning the game this turn, but that's
let's hardly a problem. That is a spell. It's another Chrome Host Seed Shark. So we found both copies right away here. And yeah, he says, sure. Yeah, that's a great draw. I would not mind drawing that. Are we going to continually fire the maps off? It looks like the answer is no. An attack for 8.
Yeah, Chrome
Host going to actually we're going to clear the Narset with the 3/3 Shark and then crunch for 5, which should put Derek to 8.
Well, Derek is now out of Narsets, which is probably not something.
Probably not the card that matters that much right now.
No, I know. You practically see more Narsets than lands this game.
Needs a Supreme Verdict more than anything, really.
Yeah.
Only card that actually would get anywhere, assuming they're still in the deck. I mean, obviously you can pile up some get lost, but eventually a random ham sandwich is going to go very exploring with all these maps, and you're still going to die to that. Narset's reversal? No, Jwari Disruption, rather. Top of the deck. Don't control that one.
How does that not go to the hand? It's a land.
It's not a land, Joe.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, sort of indeed. And that's, it drives me crazy. Some people like put the backside and leave that face up as the thing. And that's something you're allowed to do. It's not against the rules, but it drives me nuts for this reason. And the make disappear for the Teferi is going to do it. And that is the end to Derrick Davis's presence in the NRG Championship. A fine run from him and a quality opponent to lose to. Daniel Weiser, brutal way to do it, but a solid run nonetheless.
Yeah, and Derrick Davis, someone who's had a lot of success in Magic in the last 12 months. NRG Championship, not his ideal playground. Had 2 rough goes in a row, and he is out of here. But Daniel Weiser will advance. Daniel Weiser will join us for a talk in a moment. In the meantime, we'll let you know that we've got 1 round left in our double elimination grouping. Tomorrow morning will look the same as you're seeing tonight. There will be 8 players remaining in the tournament at that point, and will be a 3-round double elimination bracket before the top 4 is reached. At that point, the players will no longer be vetoing formats because they'll be playing all the formats. It'll be a best 2 out of 3 matches against each other. There you go. We'll show the rest to you. We'll show you the rest. It is going to be reseeded in the morning as well. The elimination, vetoing formats, playing what in theory is the most competitive of the 3. 2 wins before 2 losses, you're in the top 4. The reverse, and you're out in the top 8. Still an impressive showing, which Daniel Weiser has now locked up for him. I take that back. Daniel Weiser has to.
Yeah, no, he's still back.
No, he's still battling. You're right. He hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't got through yet. He's still got to win another one tonight.
Brutal. All that winning and still got one more. If you want to play tomorrow, you still got to win it in.
Yeah,
and that is
rough for Derrick Davis. Barely. I mean, 2 and 5, barely squeaked in on tiebreakers to the stage 2, and then immediately gets dumpstered, and 2 and 7 overall. A rough day. I mean, top four in your pro tour kind of washes away a lot of the sadness, but still, I mean, you want to do one every event you go to, and it just didn't work out for Derrick this weekend.
Just drowning his tears in all of his elo. Although Daniel Weiser ahead on elo, so like I said, doesn't hurt his elo that bad.
That's true.
If that's a metric you care about, then here you are. I mean, look, we're putting it on our player ranking, so it's a thing to care about. Yeah, like you said, a rough weekend, and it really goes to show, I think there's not enough conversation when you talk about Magic tournaments. People, especially now, have this expectation of themselves and of others. If you're good, then you're going to succeed at every event, or even just most events. That's just not reality. You can be a great player, paired up against a bunch of other great players, have not a great run. But Derrick Davis, his event is over. Daniel Weiser looks like he is getting settled, and he is someone that has had a fine run so far today, has a little bit more work to do. How are you feeling today, Daniel? How do you feel about your choices?
All right. I think that my Pioneer deck is great, and the other 2 formats, my deck choices could have been better in both of them, for sure.
Okay. Can you walk us through? Now, you just played in the regional championship in Atlanta.
Yes.
Can you walk us through the mindset of preparing where one format is the whole tournament versus here you had to kind of prepare 3? Like, was it just the same amount of overall time split up? Did you work harder, less hard? Was this less important? Like, what was the approach coming in?
I mostly played standard preparing for this tournament because I played no Pioneer because I had just played in Atlanta and I liked my deck a lot. I obviously won the tournament, so like I was very happy with that. Gonna run that back, of course. And then in Modern, I probably could have prepared more, but I basically just played Greg Orange's 4-color blue-white deck from the last PT. Funnily enough, I did not realize, like, I forgot that preordain was legal until the day after I'd submitted my deck list, and then I realized that I could probably have a couple copies of that in my deck. But, that's what happens when you don't prepare enough. And then standard, I like played some on Arena, picked a deck, but I expected more people to play Domain, so I think if I could mulligan my deck choice in standard, I would. I think I would play.
Okay,
more,
sorry. No, sorry, it's my fault. So we've got one more round tonight. You need a win. You're saying you're feeling good about Pioneer. Is that what you're hoping to play in the last round tonight?
Don't tell my opponent, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We won't. We'll keep it secret, I promise.
I mean, my last opponent just chose Pioneer, so don't tell the next guy.
Yeah, no, sure. No, the secret is safe with us. We don't. No one's watching the stream anyway. It won't matter. So what's your feeling on playing? The small field event. Like, what's the? Can you compare it just not deck wise or preparation wise, just kind of the feel of the room versus Atlanta?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think the small field is really cool to play these small tournaments where a bunch of the players going in, and you can like metagame based off their preferences and try and get an edge that way. I also really like the multi-format aspect of this tournament. I think it's super exciting. I've never played a tournament where you get to like pick 3 formats or bring 3 decks, and then you ban formats until you got one left. Like, I think that's a really cool aspect of it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far.
Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. We all the players were handed the I forget what they call the box set of 3 cards that were significant to you this year. We don't have a picture of it in front of you, but you want to tell the viewers what yours were, and if we did a good job, if Dakota store manager for Nerd Rage did a good job picking your cards for your box this year.
It is Shark Typhoon, Archon of Cruelty, and then Chrome Host Seed Shark. And I wish that there was not the Archon in there, because we can forget about that tournament. I did not do well in that one. But the double Shark is incredible. I love the double Shark, very much what I'm about right now. So fantastic job on
representative of your last game too.
Yes,
Shark
that's true.
And the Crow Sea Shark, you're sharking it up. Made a comment at the time. Yeah, you love your sharks, and that's really fun. The tie in there, and an impressive performance so far for you, especially given how much you apparently don't like your other 2 decks. It's a great performance on Pioneer, and still have a chance to play tomorrow.
Yeah.
Still a lot to play for.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel. Well, good luck in your last round, and we'll hopefully make it through to Sunday, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, Daniel Weiser putting on a show with the blue-white mirror that round. We're going to take a break. Unsurprisingly, didn't get to the Amulet matchup. Sorry.
What?
We'll be back.